Hi everybody. So last week we talked about the Passover festival and what had happened in Egypt all of those years ago, which meant that the Jewish people wanted to celebrate Passover. What we're going to do today is we're going to think more about what that celebration is like, and in particular what the celebration meal is like. Okay. So Passover is one of the most important festivals in the Jewish year. Yes, last week we mentioned that Passover is called Pesach in Hebrew. So it's celebrated in the spring by Jewish people, and you can see from the picture there that there is a Jewish gentleman who is holding a Seder plate. The Seder plate is very important as part of the Passover meal, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So, it's celebrated by Jewish people who remember how the Israelite people were freed from slavery by Moses over 3,000 years ago. And the story of Passover is in the Torah, the Jewish holy book. It's celebrated for 7 or 8 days together. On the evening before Passover begins, there is a special service called a Seder. At the Seder meal, there is a special Seder plate on the table. Here is an example of the Seder plate. So you can see the main plate, highly patterned, lots of decoration around. You've got a symbol in the middle, and then you've got smaller plates which each represent a different type of food. So we talked about last week, we talked about the types of foods that you have at different times of celebration in your families, and this is very specific to the Jewish faith, in that each of these types of foods have got a very particular meaning, why they're eaten at this point. So, pizza is a roasted hard-boiled egg that represents sacrifice but also new life. Now, eggs are often used to represent new life, but this one is also representing sacrifice. And interesting to notice that it's not just a hard-boiled egg, it's a roasted hard-boiled egg. So it's not just the type of food that is important, but also the way that it has been prepared. Now, maror and chazaret are two types of bitter herbs. And the reason that the bitter herbs are chosen is because of the bitterness of slavery. And the bitterness is the unpleasantness, how unpleasant the slavery was. So the Jewish people want to remember how unpleasant that slavery was all of those thousands years ago, which is why they have the bitter herbs. Zoroa, a roasted lamb or chicken bone to symbolise offerings made to God. Charaset, a mixture of ground apples, nuts, ginger, cinnamon and wine, which symbolises the mortar, which is like the cement used by the Israelites when they were forced to make bricks. Karpas, a fresh green vegetable, often parsley, which symbolises the freshness of spring. And salt water symbolises the tears and sweat of enslavement. So as you can see, all of those foods, not particularly foods that you would have heard of, and not particularly the type of foods that you would put together if you wanted to have a meal, but all of these foods are very significant, very important in terms of remembering this particular celebration. Also at the meal, they have the 3 matzot breads, which are placed on top of each other. The middle one is broken and the biggest piece is hidden. Children have to hunt for it to win a prize. You'll remember that this bread is not like the breads that you would eat in your sandwiches or rolls or things like that. It is made without yeast, so it's very thin, flat. It's called unleavened bread. You might want to, when you're doing your activity, come back to this PowerPoint and pause it at the point where we had the Seder plate, just the one before. That might remind you of what you're drawing and how to colour it as well. Also, 4 small glasses of wine are drunk, and people have different reasons for what they think that this means. Some people think that the wine is a symbol of freedom, and they believe that the 4 cups represent the 4 promises that God made to save and protect the Israelites. Also during the Passover, during this meal, the story of how the Israelites fled from Egypt is retold, and it is read from a book there called the Haggadah. Everyone at the Seder has a cushion to lean on, to remind them that the Israelites were freed from slavery to live a more comfortable life. So they now appreciate their comfortable life, and they remember this by using a cushion to sit on at the meal. So I wonder if you can remember which of these got these 3 items here that are used in the Seder celebration, and I wonder if you can remember what they're all for. So we've got the salt water, we've got the maror, and a cushion. Now at the bottom there, because I'm covering it at the moment, it says a symbol of the sweat and tears shed during slavery. Can you remember that? Why? And the middle one says a symbol of the bitterness of slavery. And the top one, a symbol of the freedom and comfort, being comfortable, of the Israelites when they're released from slavery. So I wonder if you can match each of those up. Let's have a look. So the salt water was a symbol of the sweat and tears that were shed during that time. Maror was a symbol of the bitterness of slavery, the unpleasantness of slavery, and the cushion, a symbol of the freedom and comfort that the Israelites were able to enjoy once they were released from their slavery.